I'm going to start out today's live a little bit differently than I normally do. But let me just go live on Instagram here. Oh, hang on. Let me end that live on Instagram. That's not working out. We'll go live on Instagram tomorrow. I screwed that up again. Screwed up my Instagram live, but that is nothing new, my friends. Let me see. Can I change it? Let me see if I can fix Instagram Live without having to get rid of the whole live. I don't think I can. All right, continue without Instagram Live. I cannot do anything. I would have to end the live, and I don't want to do that. So we'll just leave Instagram out. Today's going to be. I'm going to actually, before we get going, let me pull up my live chat here from Substack, from Xenocracy, from our community here on Substack. There we go. All right, guys. So today I am going to, let me just pull this up here. Today I'm going to start out my live a little differently than I normally would. This is going to be a little unusual because I talk about politics all the time. You know, and I'm going to today. I'm going to talk about the war. We're going to cover some stuff going on with the war, but it's a rare day. It's a rare day that you'll see me come on alive and talk about pop culture. Primarily because I don't care that much about pop culture. Like I care. I'm part of, we're all a part of pop culture, but I don't pay very much attention to it. I care about it. I engage in it. I care about movies, and I care about music, and I care about stuff, but not enough to speak about it. Not enough that I know anything about it. Hey, Angie, how are you? Not enough that I really know about that much about it. So I don't spend a lot of time doing pop culture, and it's a rare day that I would dare go live talking about pop culture. Right? It's just not my thing. I don't know anything. Hey, Julie, but today is that rare day. Today is that rare day that I am going to at least start the live with pop culture because it's personal. There are two things. One thing happening just is fucking stupid to me, and one thing is personal because it's from my era. It's from my time as growing up in the 80s as a teenager, and it's troubling to me. So, and again, in the grand scheme of what I care about, what I focus on, it's not important to me. And I know this is not to belittle the significance of this issue that we're going to talk about in a minute with Chili from TLC, right? I don't want to, because I know for a lot of people this is a bigger issue. It has to do. I was just listening to Don Lemon to his live before I came on to do my live, and Don was very seriously speaking about this. He had a reporter, and they were talking about, both of them were talking about how the era of the late 80s and the early 90s was really in pop music, in R&B pop at the time. There were, especially as you went into the 90s, you had these bands like TLC and Salt and Pepper and In Vogue, which all of these bands I was huge fans of. Huge fans of. They created a genre of music. They gave voice to Black women in that time, in that era, and there's a whole political through line to pop culture from that era, politics in that era, and politics today. The Democratic Party would not exist, would never win without extensive and aggressive support from Black women. The only reason that Joe Biden became president of the United States, and that it wasn't the only reason that Joe Biden won the presidential nomination that won the primaries in leading up to the 2020 election, and that Bernie Sanders wasn't our candidate for president, was because of Congressman James Clyburn in South Carolina reaching out to Black women and, in essence, making the pitch that Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump. And it was Black women in South Carolina that turned that race around. And Biden won that race, and then but if you remember, those of you who were paying attention, Bernie was soaring during that race. But it was South Carolina, it was James Clyburn, and it was Black women picking up the mantle, the practical mantle, by saying, we don't know if Bernie's going to win, and we can't have another fucking Donald Trump. And shifting the narrative, shifting the electoral outcome for the presidential primary in South Carolina, that changed the course of history that year, that afforded afforded Biden the opportunity to win that state, subsequently gave him the momentum to win most of the rest of the states, win the nomination, and then win the election. And as much as I would have preferred Bernie to Biden, I agreed with them. I voted for Biden in my primary, even though Bernie was my preferred candidate, because I just didn't think he could win. And maybe he would have. Maybe we all made a mistake, those of us that made that choice, but that's what we did. So I know this is a significant issue. As I was listening to and watching before I came on the Don Lemon show, and Don was talking about it. One of his guests was talking about it, and so when I belittle this story that I'm going to talk about a little bit, in the sense that it's not anything I would talk about, and it's not anything I care about beyond just the fact that I'm personally affected. I'm bothered by it. I don't mean to belittle the meaning and the intensity of the story, but I'm not knowledgeable enough about pop culture to get into it. And if you're just joining us, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is a rare moment where I'm going to start my live out with two pop cultural political stories. I don't touch pop culture almost ever because I don't know anything, right? And I don't care that much. But today there's two stories that came out that affected me. So the first one is this. What you're looking at here is a Daily Beast story about it. The Hill is reporting on it. Essence is reporting on it. Lots of news outlets that fuse with pop culture are reporting on it. So Chili, it was one of the three vocalists back in the 90s and today. Well, there's only two left because Left Eye, I believe was her name, died years ago, unfortunately. But they were part of the pop group TLC. And, all of the TLC, En Vogue, Salt and Pepper, they've all made kind of a resurgence in the last maybe 10 years, right? Because all of us Gen Xers are getting older, and we have this nostalgic connection to them. And again, their music is so fucking good that not only are they appreciated by those of us who grew up with them. Salt and Pepper and TLC, especially for me when I was a kid, they were two of my favorite bands. I don't know if you really refer to them as bands, but that's just how I saw them. But I loved their music. It spoke to me. I loved the melodious sound, their incredible voices, their harmonies, their talent, their passion. I love the messages in their music. Me too. I loved their music. Was some of what lifted me out of my teenage doldrums when I was a teenager. So I love them. It's just that it's I love them. You know, so when I saw this, when I listened to Don Lemon and I saw this story, I was like, fuck, Chili. We already lost Left Eye years ago. I think she was in Jamaica or the Virgin Islands or somewhere, and she had a car accident when she was young, and she died. She was the rapper in the group. And now, it seems like we may be losing, not, thank God, not in the flesh, but in the political spectrum. uh Chile is under scrutiny right now. Some, but maybe not that much, but enough, because it was reported that she supported Donald Trump, that she made three uh three very small donations. I mean, you're talking a couple $100 each to three conservative, very Trumpian uh fundraising organizations, super PAC kind of things. And prior to that, she had posted a video. I haven't watched the video. I'm not going to watch the video. I don't give a shit. I don't want to see any more awfulness, to be honest with you. But she had posted a video that was another one of those Michelle Obama offensive videos. And from what I read in the articles that I read about this, that she had posted a video of some goofball accusing Michelle of registering to vote as a man in some year. I don't know what it was. And so I don't care to see the video. I don't want to be. I don't want to give it the attention, even from my one view. But Chili posted that, and when this news kind of went public, I don't know if the Hollywood Reporter broke the story or if Essence broke the story. I don't know which news outlet broke the story, but one of them broke the story, and then when it came out, Chili immediately came out and said, "No, no, 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 no. There's been a misunderstanding. I'm not part of the MAGA community, um, and I don't support Donald Trump's policies, and that I don't feel that way, and of course I never knew what I was posting." When it came to the Michelle Obama video, I supported Michelle extensively back in the day, and I was really involved in her, fitness and healthy eating efforts when Barack Obama was president, and I don't feel that way. And again, for me, as not really a pop culture consumer, because I don't care. I don't pay attention to it. I care, but I don't care, right? Because the news is my thing. Politics are my thing. Like, that would have been enough for me, right? If I would have heard this story, and I wouldn't have popped onto Don Lemon, and Chili said that, and I've loved Chili for decades, right? Don't know her, but just love her for decades, right? That would have been enough, and I wouldn't have pursued it further. I certainly wouldn't be talking about it on my live. And then I watched Don Lemon, and Don is talking about it. And, also through Chorus in my community, a lot of folks have really brought a lot of issues to my attention and to our attention, especially as they relate to Black women and how the Democratic Party in many ways relies on Black women to vote for them, but never, ever, ever, ever adequately meets the needs of Black women. And, when we have, in the times that we've had these conversations, I haven't said much, but I've listened a lot, and I get it now. I get it. And, also that, more than two handfuls of people have said to me, not as a community, that white influencers have a responsibility now. White pro-democracy influencers have a responsibility now because it's much safer for me to call out racism. Not that I didn't always do it anyway, but for me to call out racism, hatred, uh, you know, there might have been an issue like with James Tallarico's campaign with Jasmine Crockett, where it was a very vitriolic campaign. And there's certainly, although I don't think Tallarico is a racist by any stretch of the imagination, what happened in Georgia with the Georgia Supreme Court during that election was racist, was an intent to suppress the vote of black voters, to try to get Tallarico on the ticket, because they may have to put up with a Democratic, the racist in Texas may have to put up with a Democratic senator, God willing, and I expect that to be the case in November, although not everybody agrees with me. But at least they wouldn't have to, the poor racists there wouldn't have to tolerate a black woman, Jasmine Crockett, a strong black professional woman, Jasmine Crockett. They would at least be able to get a white Christian in Tallarico. So it is my responsibility as an influencer to call this stuff out and call it out hard. And so when I saw the Don Lemon show today and I saw him, and I don't know who the reporter was. She's an independent journalist. She's a black independent journalist. And Don had posted a clip of her calling out Chile. And what she basically said when she was calling out Chile is she had said that it's bullshit. She said, don't bullshit us. Black women have worked so hard and they have come so far, and so much of the future of the Democratic Party, and AKA now the future of democracy, rests on the shoulder of black female voters, as it has for a long time. That this reporter was outraged because she's like, we've worked so hard. We've been pushed back so far in the era of Donald Trump, but yet we are not surrendering. And then we have someone who is a cultural icon, a force for good, right? Like Chile, who is now the receipts, because this reporting on Chile, there are receipts there. You can see that Chile made these donations to these organizations, and she made 3 of them. And on top of that, you can see the video that she posted, right? So what the reporter was saying, to come out and say, I didn't do it. I didn't mean it. And there's a tour, which I didn't know about, which I wish I did know about because I really would like to go. Although, we'll see if there's a New York show, and we'll see how I feel about Chile at the time. But there's a tour starting like in an hour. I'm exaggerating, but starting with TLC, In Vogue, and Salt and Pepper. Right? So they're about to go on tour. And the last thing that they need is a political controversy, right? That's certainly going to turn off people like me who would buy a ticket for $250 for me and my wife and my son each to go see that show. And I would love every minute of it, right? So, Xenocracy Group concert. Amen, Patty. Yeah, that's pretty funny. So, I can't not speak about it. And even though I don't know enough about pop culture to speak intelligently about, I can't, and because it's personal, because I have a responsibility to speak out about all of this kind of stuff as an influencer, because it's safe for me to do it and I need to do it. And also because I have a personal stake in this. I feel like what that reporter was saying is true. It seems opportunistic of Chile at this point to come out. The point was just own it. if you are you wouldn't be the first one. Somebody mentioned Kanye in here, and Chili is no fucking Kanye, right? Kanye is a I don't want to say a personality. He's Kanye is beyond a personality in what he is in what he has devolved into, but right. But I also give Kanye a slight bit of a pass because he's severely mentally ill, I think. But that's another story. That's another story. Um, so yeah, I mean, Chili, as a longtime fan, I know you're not on the live, right? As someone who you know, who your music, your work, your body of work is is something that has stuck with me for decades. Don't do this. If you sold out to the MAGA community and now you're just BSing for, you're just BSing because for business reasons, don't be that person. That will be disappointing. I would be disappointed, disillusioned, and disinterested to find out you were a MAGA supporter. Um, but I will lose all respect for you if not only are you a MAGA supporter, but you're going to bullshit everyone. If we find out after this fucking tour is over that that you go full MAGA, you kind of like let it out there, let it out now. And if you're not, if these somehow were accidental mistakes, then weather the storm, because we all have to suffer the consequences of our choices and our actions, right? And when we all make mistakes, and especially public figures, I mean, you've been rewarded financially, with fame, with comfort, and not that you didn't earn it, you did, but the culture has rewarded you significantly for your efforts. So you can handle this. The consequences of your actions is you're going to get a lot of shit. And, so what? You'll live. Gail, what she said, I didn't check out I don't want to see the post, about this, because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want any more of that toxicity in my spirit. But and you can, fact check it for yourself, look it up for yourself. But from what I read in a few of the articles that I read about this, she had said something about, the post said it was a repost or maybe a video, I don't know, but it was some bullshit about Michelle Obama in some election registering to vote as a man. Like it was some kind of, racist, misogynist fucking crap like that, So, but again, I don't know. I don't know what it was, and I don't know how you didn't know what you posted. So, anyway, I need to stay in my lane. I can't go any further. Don't go chasing waterfalls. I need to do that, right? Yeah. Sorry, shouldn't sing on my lives, but I should not go chasing waterfalls. Waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. It's just some good stuff. But I should do that. Stay the fuck out of pop culture, and stick with politics. So there's that. But I got one more pop culture story that I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an Epstein update before we went into Gamer Vet Dad. I get disappointed so much with celebrities. I keep my expectations low for all of them. Yeah, I get it. Me too. And again, I think Gamer, your point is so well taken, and also they're people, right? They're just as fucked up as the rest of us are, and sometimes often more so, right? Because when we have our problems, and most of us, the entire world doesn't see them, and I imagine when the world does see your problems, it's harder to overcome them when everything is public. So, but just as much as as much as we are this diverse confederacy of political opinions and thoughts and insights and people, there are just over the last decade, there are just people I've known who I've been stunned are wind up being Trump supporters. I guess there's no reason not to expect that from anyone who is a public figure, even if it's a public figure, who you know a, a public figure who just meant a lot to me in my teenage years because it was there was a I was very into music in the 80s when I was a teenager. I wasn't into uh heavy metal, which was big. I wasn't into punk. I wasn't into gangsta rap. I only sort of got interested in that later in life, believe it or not. Um, but I was very into pop music, just beautiful melodic sounds and voices, uh, R&B, new wave. I was, electronic music. I know those are two different, completely different avenues, and I loved it. I just loved it. I loved, it wasn't manly, but I just loved pop music when I was growing up in the 80s, and especially pop music that was in the R&B space. It was just what I just loved, and I just loved this particular. I just loved, you know, um, TLC was just. They were just to me. They were just one special. There was just once there was something extraordinary about them that just resonated with me. I just adored their music. I adored them. I just loved what they did. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get to unexpected cultural pop culture story number 2. And guys, feel free to tell me I'm full of shit on any of these things if you don't agree. I won't take it personally. I never take it personally, even when it's politics, but especially on with pop culture, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Um, I just saw this link right before I came on live. I don't have any feelings about Laura Dern. She's a good actress. I don't know her. I don't follow her career all that well. I don't care. I don't know if she's where she is politically, if she talks about, I don't know anything. But I just, Laura Dern to star in Epstein Investigation limited series from Adam McKay. Dern will play Miami Herald reporter Julie K. Brown in first scripted take on the Epstein story, based on Brown's book. This is fucking sick. Maybe I'm taking it too far. I don't give a shit about Hollywood making movies about things, real things. And I expect Hollywood to do that. And sometimes Hollywood educates us, maybe inaccurately, but they educate us, right? Through films, historical films with a lot that they take a lot of creative liberty, right? I'm trying to think of, Steven Spielberg's. I can't remember what it was called, but his film about Lincoln, right? It was not completely historically accurate, but it was well researched and much. There was a lot of fiction in, but it was still most of us didn't know enough, and it informed us, and it was entertainment. Schindler's List, obviously, another Spielberg film. Taught a lot of people about the Holocaust, brought it to their attention. Um, what's his name who became a complete nut job later in life, but the JFK assassination movie. Can't think of his name right now. Even from the Wolf of Wall Street, which wasn't a historical film, but which was a fictional film, but based on some of the corrupted realities that go on in Oliver Stone is who I was thinking of. Corrupted realities that go on in Wall Street. Like their movies do that, and good shows do that. But I don't know. You got to have some fucking common sense and decency, right? The Epstein the Epstein saga right now is the largest, it potentially the largest sex trafficking ring in potentially the history of the world, right? The modern era, right? The most egregious version of it. You have not just the village idiot Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein involved in this. You have active investigations going on throughout Europe now of men and women, powerful men and women, who the Epstein files reveal were tied to this. And we know this is really just the tip of the iceberg. We know from the Epstein files that the real story, if it's even fully there, is in these other 3 million documents that the DOJ hasn't released yet. We know that hundreds, maybe thousands of powerful men are being protected for the rape and trafficking and nonstop abuse of these young girls at the time for years. In some instances, this went on for decades. We know that there is a money laundering side to this. We know now that there is a drug trafficking side to this. And it's an active investigation, even if it's not being investigated by the Department of Justice anymore for the moment. We know that courageous Epstein victims here in the United States have come forward and have placed themselves forward. And, like, what the fuck are you doing, Hollywood? What are you doing? Are you out of your fucking mind? You have hundreds of powerful men around the world, wealthy, powerful men around the world who are looking for ways to still bury this, who are still actively hiding from the truth. You have, a half-open investigation. You have we have just a window into what happened, and you're gonna fucking make a movie about it now. You're gonna a Netflix series or some shit about this to further a fucking fictional. Hey, Irish Shaggy, a fictional depiction when we don't even know, when we're still trying desperately to find the facts. What the fuck? You should be ashamed of you. What the fuck are you doing? I'm sorry, but this Adam McKay is an asshole. I don't know who he is. Laura Dern should be ashamed of herself. She's an embarrassment. Why would you take this job now for this show? Why would you contribute to a fictional show, right? I could get a documentary, 100%. Get in there, Laura. Narrate a documentary. We could use another one of them. Do your own fucking investigation. Yeah. Be part of the solution. Help blow this open a little more. But you're going to be such a fucking opportunist right now that you're going to create a fictional show based on a Miami Herald reporter who's still employed there, who's still working on this stuff, who's still digging shit up, right? I agree with you, Lacey, beyond tone deaf. I don't even think it's tone deaf. I think it's whether intentionally or unintentionally, it interferes with what needs to be done right now. It interferes to put more stuff out there that cannot possibly be 100% true, where an actress is going to portray a living, an actress is going to portray a living reporter whose actual reporting is the thing that blew this whole fucking thing wide open. I mean, and millions of people are going to watch this show and they're going to believe that that's the Epstein files. Just like when I watched Schindler's List, right? I know a lot about the Holocaust, but if I didn't, I would have believed everything in that movie really happened. And it's okay now because we're 75, 85 years out of the Holocaust, and the record stands. Hundreds of thousands of documentaries, hundreds of thousands and thousands of news reports. The real truth is out there. It's okay you have a fictional movie to pique people's attention and to entertain them and to interest them in the topic, because the truth is out there. And if you want to find it, you can go get it, right? But or the Abraham Lincoln movie, I can't remember the name of it. The truth is out there. The historical record is done. It's set. But now you're such a fucking opportunist. You're so goddamn money hungry, right? That you're going to make this fucking movie right now, or this series, or whatever it's going to be, and you're going to put a bunch of bullshit out there that writers and whoever's writing this should be ashamed of themselves too. That you're going to fucking they're going to write a fictional version. I used to be a screenwriter, and I was never a successful one, but I wrote several screenplays. I went to film school, wrote a bunch of screenplays, submitted them, right? Yeah, nothing ever happened, so I can't really say that. But I know what the process is like. And I know what it's like to take a real story, a real thing, and fictionalize it into a movie. But you're going to take that fictionalized, you're going to take this situation where there is no truth yet. There is no record. It's not shut. There is nowhere to go to get the truth. Right? If you want it, and you're going to make up a fucking story, and move it out of move all of this, move this Epstein story line, this narrative. You're going to try to move it out of the space of politics and news and cover up, right? Out of the Justice Department, as fucked up as it is right now. You're going to move it out of the judiciary and into the bullshit. It's embarrassing as an American. I imagine the Europeans who are actively investigating the scumbags who allegedly raped young girls would look at this and be like, those figures. The country that elected Trump fucking 2 times, those idiots, of course they're going to make a movie about the Epstein files right now. Of course there's going to be, a streaming series about the Epstein files. And I wonder, I don't know who the, I don't know. I haven't gone through the whole story yet because I was too fired up, right? But I wonder who the production company is. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Paramount, right? And not Netflix. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Trump toadies, the Trump fucking creeps, the Ellison, Larry and his Nepo baby son, who are trying to, put this out and change the narrative. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. So, and Hollywood is in trouble, Gail. I couldn't agree with you more. And then get up at the Oscars and say fucking nothing. I'm sorry, Gail, I didn't read your whole. I'm sure you have a couple other things that you're talking about here. But it really is. I saw this and I just was stunned. and I'm never stunned anymore. But it is it's something, isn't it? It's really, really something. You know, like Trump. What a disgrace it is! It's such a disgrace, but it really is. It really is. It really is a disgrace. I mean, as a you know, I'm just gonna shut up about it. That's it. All right, guys. Let's go here. I just needed to share it with you. She probably does, Tina. And again, I don't know what her politics are. Lacey, you're surprised, Laura. Let's just take a look. I don't know. I mean, I'm just spitballing here. I have no idea what her politics are. Laura Dern, I have no idea if she's Laura Dern is a vocal critic of Trump, so she's not a Trump supporter. So, I don't know. Look, maybe I should play devil's advocate on myself, right? Maybe there's nothing wrong with this. Maybe I'm overreacting to it. It seems like it's like, think of like the big criminal cases that we've watched here in the U.S., right? The Menendez brothers, the O.J. Simpson case. I'm just trying to think of these big the Cosby case. Years before that, the Manson, trials. Think of these huge criminal cases that captured the headlines, right? Would Hollywood have had the nerve? I mean, OJ would have been the one, right? But would Hollywood have dared make an OJ movie, right? Or make the movie about the murder of what was it? I don't remember the name of the two people that OJ murdered, but or allegedly murdered because he was found innocent. But would they have made a movie during the trial? Would they have made a movie during the investigation? What was the investigation, a year long or something like that after the murders? I mean, it's insane. It's just Nicole Simpson. Thank you. Thank you, Gail. I don't know. Anyway, getting to the news. What time is it? 11:58. I'll see you tomorrow, Angie. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you. Be well. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow. So, average price of gas hit $4 today. First time since 2022. The average price of a gallon of gasoline hit $4 Tuesday for the first time since mid-2022 as the cost surges due to the war. In the months since the United States and Israel attacked Iran, the average price of unleaded gas has spiked more than $1 a gallon. It's at about $4.02 a gallon right now. It's not just retail gas. Diesel is at $5.45 a gallon. And of course, as we know, driving that is the soaring cost of crude worldwide. I think as of yesterday, the cost of crude was around $102. Let's see what it is right now. Let's just take a look. We are at 104 right now. Let's go to crude prices at oil.com to get the latest. There's these different kinds of crude, and I don't know what the fuck they mean, but you have WTI crude at 104, Brent crude at 118. I think Brent crude is the crude that, GamerVet Dad fact checked me on this, but I think I've learned over the last 30 days that the type of crude oil that affects the gas at the pump is that the Brent crude. If that is, that's we're at $118 a barrel right now, which is fucking crazy. What's happening on Wall Street? So Wall Street is up a little bit. It looks like it's up 418 points. 45. The Dow's at 45,000. Remember, we were all making fun of Pam Bondi because at her most recent hearing in front of the Senate, or was it the House? I don't remember. She bragged that everything's great because the Dow's at 50,000. So the Dow's lost 5,000 points um, since because of this. And the only reason that the stock market is climbing right now is very emotional. The emotional stock traders, based on what the Village Idiots, one of the Village Idiots' true social things that he put out recently, where he said something like, I'm sorry, it's based on Wall Street Journal reporting that came out earlier today that where the idiot apparently told his assistants, some of his assistants, that he's like ready to, call it a day on the war in Iran, leave the Straits of Hormuz closed, worry about opening the complexity of opening the straits later at some other time. And if the straits don't get open, then just leave it up to the Europeans to do it, because apparently somehow we don't need any oil or gas from the straits, even though that's oil and gas prices are controlled by whether those straits are open or closed, as well as for liquefied natural gas. So the Dow is just temporarily reacting to that news. And the idiot can change. We could be right at the end of the war for America. That reporting is sure feels like it's accurate. But everything, 2 days ago, it sure felt like, based on what the idiot was saying, that a ground invasion of the island of Karg was imminent, and that we have some 10,000 Marines out there. And oh, thank you, Gamer Vet Dad. So it is the Brent crude that's the important one. So I mean, you never really know till you know with this idiot, because he doesn't know. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing from 1 minute to the next. But it does seem like it feels like today that Donald is bored. He's at the lowest approval rating for this point in a second term that any president in the history of the United States has ever had. He's down 17 points from his high. He is pulling in the mid to low 30s right now. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Remember my feeling for when I think we're going to be okay politically forever. And that's when he's in the 20s across the board with all demographics except the Republicans. And it's ridiculous that we're not there, but we're getting there. And that's when I think we're even safe from the autocratic coup, because that if that happens, if he winds up in the 20s consistently before the midterms, Republicans, I feel like that will give chicken shit GOP senators the courage to step away from him and tell him to go fuck himself. The only reason I think that Senator John Thune is finding the courage to tell him to shove it up his ass when it comes to the filibuster, because the idiot wants to get rid of the filibuster to pass the SAVE Act and to fund the ICE Gestapo and to fund the rest of DHS. The only reason I personally think that John Thune has the courage to say no is because the idiot's approval rating is so low. And I think once we're in the 20s, we're safe. I really think that. I mean, again, we're not safe from the fact that he has control of the military. He's got the nuclear control codes and all that other shit. But we're relatively, I think our democracy is relatively going to be okay. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet in my opinion. Gamer Vet Dad, some specific demographic polls have been in the mid-20s for 4 weeks. I would argue, I would say that for months even now. I'm not sure which ones you're talking about, Gamer, but I think for months, he's been consistently in the 20s with independents, just in general, and with Latinos for months and months and months. But are there more specific demographics that you're referring to? The biggest poll issue is that they group MAGA hardlines with the remaining Republicans as a whole group. Yeah, agreed. I mean, I don't know how pollsters could flesh that out. You know what I mean? Like, they'd have to do specific polling within the Republican Party and they'd have to have like these really kind of pointed questions, and you have such like I think they'd have to be like, do you consider yourself a Trumpian Republican, or I don't even know how they would phrase it, right? Or and because just within the Republican Party, you have so many Republicans who have left the Republican Party. I just don't know if they could even get, if they could figure out the language to use for that polling. I don't even know if they could get an accurate, accurate data sets together to actually do what you're suggesting. But you're right. You're right. Is that you can't separate the extremists from Republicans who might still support Trump, but they're not cult members. I don't know how you would do that. I mean, maybe you can, but I don't know. I don't know how it would work. The good news is that, hang on, I just pulled something. So Gamer's saying here, the good news is that he cannot just grab the football and launch a missile. Sorry, I meant months, not weeks. Okay. Pollsters are starting to ask, are you a MAGA supporter? Okay, so that clears it up then. And yeah, it's a little bit harder to just launch a missile, right? So you're right about that. So I don't know that. You know what it is? When I was speaking to Ken Harbaugh, I hope you guys had a chance to. If you haven't watched that interview yet with Ken Harbaugh, please do. It's really, really. He's really, really a well-informed source. It's one of the most insightful interviews I've had, and it's so pointed today about the war, the drones, and the war in Ukraine, the war in Iran, the situation with the drones going on. And I hope to have Ken on again in the very near future. But one of the things he touched on, and we just didn't have time to get into it in our discussion, and it's one of the things I want to get to with him if this war continues, is that the war is reaching worst case scenario point. Like with Trump being incompetent, unfit, stupid, and indecisive, and utterly crazy, right? With all of those things together, and the Iranians they're pushing him, they're taunting him, they're making fun of him, and if there's anything that lunatic cannot tolerate, cannot absorb, cannot stand, cannot take, cannot deal with, it's people making fun of him. And the Iranians they're trolling him on social media. They're abusing the shit out of him. They are obliterating him with the PR war. And you could even start to make an argument that they're winning the physical war, not in the sense that they're able to, inflict the level of damage on our ships and on our bases yet that we're inflicting on Iran, but they're not disappearing. They're not losing their ability to fight back. And when they do fight back, they're doing significant damage. I mean, there's not just they've won the PR war already. They've won the economic war already, clobbered Donald Trump strategically with the PR war, destroyed him with the economic war, which is enough. But I feel like we're reaching a point where they are kind of turning the tide in the physical war. Because it's like in Vietnam, you can only bomb the shit out of, the place so much where you start losing even when you think you're winning, right? Because you can't hurt them anymore. And when the Iranians are proudly not just making fun of Donald Trump, but pushing out messaging that is saying, U.S. soldiers, we're waiting for you on the island of Karg. You're going to go home in flag-draped body bags, and it will be for nothing. It will be for a stupid, unnecessary war that means nothing to you. But our martyrs are going to, die and go to heaven and be accepted as, great heroic martyrs. They believe it. Right? It's not. I don't think the Iranians are just propagandizing that and saying that. I think the regime believes that. They truly, truly believe that. And the reality is that they're able to take that mentality and, apply that mentality to their physical war strategy and use the tools that they have, which are these Shahed drones and these uh, ballistic missiles, and do some severe damage. uh, and there, and all the reporting suggests that the U.S. and Israel have not destroyed most or much of their enriched uranium. That the drone, their ability not just to have drones but make drones is still very, very significant. They're making 20 to $35,000 drones, as Ken told us, and we're using $1 to $3 million interceptors to take them out. Midas Touch News Network, Ben Maselis reported yesterday that the Iranians have taken it a step further. They're now putting on their cheaper missiles, they're putting fireworks into their cheaper missiles, and they're shooting them at United Emirates, UAE, and Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, and our bases, and other targets. And then we're using our like $1 million interceptor missiles that we're running out of to shoot down their fireworks. And then once we do that, they're shooting the real missiles in. So they're starting to outsmart not the military leadership, because I'm sure the idiot isn't listening to the military leadership. I'm sure General Kane, I'm starting to think he's as fucking crazy. Well, not starting. He's as crazy as the idiots that he's working for. So the military leadership that knows what the fuck they're doing, I'm sure they're not listening to them. And so it seems plausible that Iran is going to get the upper hand at some point in the physical war. And I don't know. I don't know what that means. I just wish that this stupid thing would end. I wish it would end today. I wish the idiot would just... It was a great victory. We got rid of them all. There was regime change. We changed the regime. They're all gone. Every one of them is gone. And it's not my job. It's the NATO's fault. It's the Europeans' fault that the Straits of Hormuz are closed. That's gonna be their problem to open it. We're out. We're leaving, and we're never gonna do anything for NATO again. They're done with it. We're done. Let them do it. Let that happen, and the war will probably end. I don't know if Israel will have the wherewithal to stick around without us. And what Iran gets is a lot of busted up, blown up infrastructure, probably several thousand civilians killed, unfortunately, but they're going to be looked in, not just unfortunately, catastrophically, but the regime is going to call them martyrs. The leader removed, their Ayatollah killed, and they see him as a martyr now. His son, who is reported to be far more extreme than he is, in charge. A more repressive regime probably there. And they're charging people now to go through the Straits of Hormuz. It used to be a toll-free waterway. Now they're like, fuck it. Fuck it. So even if the war would end tomorrow, and all the reporting I've read has suggested that it will take months to really dial up capacity for oil again, and for prices to recede back to sane levels, if they do anytime soon, you're still going to be paying a little bit extra, because you're going to be fucking paying the commodity. You're going to be paying the toll that didn't exist before. And that's going to be passed off to consumers in the end. And even though we're supposedly energy independent here in the U.S., the oil prices are set by the commodities market, not by the village idiot. So, they're going to reflect, it's even if gas goes down fairly quickly, somewhat after this stupid thing ends, it's going to be high for a long time, and it's not going to go back to where it was, because it's going to be more expensive now. Gail, I don't see it ending soon just based on history, but then Donald Trump is unprecedented. Yeah, he is. He definitely is. And I'm assuming, Gail, you're talking about the Iran war, the Iraq wars, and the Afghanistan war. and that this idiot is going to fall into the is falling into the same trap. And you're right. you know um if we begin a ground invasion, it's going to be a hell of a lot more difficult logistically to pull our troops out of the country in the middle of a ground invasion when the imbecile changes his mind and decides it's time to go invade Cuba. If he decides that. We let a Russian oil tanker into Cuba. Yes. you know, the Iranians, something else they got out of this is like their oil is not sanctioned We're at war with them, right? The idiot's at war with them. But because things were getting so bad, the idiot lifted sanctions on Russian oil. And then he lifted the sanctions on the Iranian oil. So the Iranians are free to. And the Russians are giving the Iranians intelligence, satellite photos and intelligence of U.S. bases to blow up, right? We lifted sanctions on the Russians so they could give the Iranians intel to try to kill Americans, right? And we lifted sanctions on the Iranians while we're at war with the Iranians so the Iranians could sell oil to fund the war that we're fighting against them, to buy more components to build more drones, to enrich uranium so that they could eventually get a nuclear weapon, and to build ballistic missiles that can go further and further and further. He's so stupid, Tina. He's so stupid. Truer words haven't been spoken. All right, guys. I think that's a good point. That's a good moment to wrap it up. Oh, and guys, if you didn't have a chance, and folks, if there's anybody from the other socials here, I haven't checked. I had some problems I screwed up the Instagram feed again today, so we're not on Instagram. I'll get it right sooner or later. If you're not here at Substack as well, you're always welcome to join from the other channels. I love it, but Substack is our home. It's sort of our home base, and for more analysis, for whenever I do interviews, they get posted to Substack first. If I go live on interviews, I do the lives on Substack only. I don't multi-stream those lives. There are more and more interviews. I had a great one yesterday about AI pricings. It was with Julie Owens. She's from the Groundwork. I can't remember the name of her nonprofit, but they, we had a great conversation about how AI pricing is affecting you and will affect you, and how the big retailers are looking to charge you something different than they're going to charge your neighbor based on who you are, what your buying habits are for the same product, and how that is poised to become a thing across the board in retail, and there's no way we can stop it if we don't know about it. So please, if you're not a subscriber, it's free to subscribe. Please come over to Zenocracy.news, whichever social media outlet you're on. My link is in the profile. It's in the bio there. You can subscribe for free. For those who are comfortable, who want to support my work, please choose a paid subscription option only. As well, it really, really helps me do the work that I'm doing. And again, on Substack, there's just, there's a little bit more analysis, and all of my archived stuff is over there too. But again, if you're on any of the other socials, if that's the only place where you like to be, more power to you. Stay there. We do the live streams there a couple days a week. Just make sure if you're if you're not following me, whichever social you're on, like the stream and follow as well. It really helps. It really helps build the social media presence. Thank you, Gail. I love you guys. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. That's how we get through it. I know it doesn't feel like it, but we're almost 1.5 years into this fucking awful administration. And I'd argue we're stronger than we were before we came in. May not feel that way, but we are. Keep chunking through it. Do what you can. Take a break when you need to. Come back in. And we're all here. I'll see you guys soon. Be well, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.